right, what's up everyone? Happy Monday. Welcome to the first business day of December. DC 322, I see Monday here. Very fitting on the occasion. Exploration 31. Allen, Unij 23. Cheers. Allen's is busy as hell today for me. It was kind of busy today for me too. Some interesting news coming out. Tesla, which we'll talk about. Pretty insane news. Eyeglass lady, Jimmy. Hey Jimmy, hopefully you had a good Thanksgiving extended weekend. Spiffy, Carla, A Simple Life is here. Good to see everybody. Trinidad, thanks for joining. We'll get started here in a moment, everybody. Jack, Exploration says, let's go Tesla. I agree. We'll talk about that. Now the stock looks pretty good, and it's not down that much on the news, by the way. Gabriel, what's going on? Robert. Is this guy going to make the bus? Just made it. Awesome. ETC 333, what's going on? Good evening. I see DC is here. We're back on 57th Street again, my friends. Middle-aged grind, Hector, Mike G, Mr. 15 Central Park West is officially in the audience. I think we'll head to Lincoln Center tonight. We haven't been up to Lincoln Center in quite some time. Ricky. All right, everybody. Well, we'll go ahead and just do the quick audio as well as visual check. So if you guys can hear us, and also if we are broadcasting in 1080p, just go ahead and leave a thumbs up in the chat, and we'll get started here in a moment. Chris, what's up? Douglas, what's going on? Jamie, welcome. All right, everybody. Well, I think we can go ahead and get started. So good evening, everybody, and welcome back to Walks on Wall Street. It is officially the full swing of the business week in December. It was officially the last month of the year until we start talking about 2025, which is really quite unbelievable. Now, some interesting data here, which we'll just quickly run through as we're looking at the main entrance to the Trump Tower. Now, last year we had 20% plus gains for the S&P 500. Now, this year for 2024, yes, it is true the S&P is on track for another 20% plus year. I mean, we've still got about a month left. But, if we look back throughout history, usually December is the strongest month for stocks. So let's just assume for a second, even though it's never good to assume, that the S&P 500 will close 20% gains again for 2024. Now, if we go into 2025 and get a back-to-back-to-back 20% plus gains for the S&P 500. This will be the third time in history, only two other times, that would have ever happened, and one of which would be in the 2000 dot-com bubble, which is almost kind of very fitting, right? If we have another strong year in 2025, well, think about all of the kind of catalysts and characteristics that we've been discussing and talking about in the live stream, from AI, all the major hyperscalers, cloud computing businesses, full self-driving and the like. I think that could be the last kind of final hurrah before we have some sort of sizable bear market. But anything's possible. It's interesting just to keep that on the radar. So there's only been two other times where we've had back-to-back-to-back, 3 consecutive years of 20% gains on the S&P. Now, we'll talk about some individual stocks. Number one, we'll talk about Tesla. There's been some significant news coming out of Tesla today. I'm sure all of you already know what that news is. But Elon Musk's pay package has been denied yet again. I believe it's a $58 billion compensation package has been denied yet again, which is quite interesting because the shareholders voted for it. They voted on it, and the shareholders approved the pay package, but the judge in Delaware struck it down. Now, Elon Musk made a series of statements on his X platform, formerly known as Twitter, in which he is stating he is going to appeal that decision. Now, also the lawyers who are representing the party against the pay package, I believe, are set to be awarded over $300 million worth of compensation. So it just seems like this whole thing, it's just been a big lawyer cash grab, in my view. We'll see what happens. Now, this has actually prompted Elon Musk to reincorporate his company Tesla away from Delaware and try to incorporate it in Texas. But it's pretty unbelievable in my opinion. Now, I know we all have our own opinions. I respect everybody's opinion. I'm sure we have people who are in favor of the $58 billion compensation package for Elon Musk, which would be the highest compensation package ever in corporate America for any CEO ever in history. And I'm sure we have some people here who are against the pay package, right? Where I stand, if the shareholders voted on it and they approve it, I don't think you should have a judge getting in the mix and kind of playing favorites, I guess. So it's a little bit concerning. I would like to say if this was anybody but Elon Musk, you wouldn't have this problem. Elon is a very, let's just say, controversial figure, a very polarizing figure, and I think he's brought a lot of this, and I'm a huge Elon fan, by the way, but he's brought a lot of this attention on himself. So we'll see what happens. Now, we're talking about the stock price. Not a whole lot of negative reaction in the stock price after hours. Had some pretty good action in Tesla today. I think that stock bottomed back in April. I am bullish on the stock. We're down fractionally. I think we're down like 1.5% maybe after hours on that decision. We'll see if that sell-off continues as we open the market tomorrow morning on Tuesday. So with that being said, we'll talk about that a little bit more tonight. Obviously, massive, breaking news from that decision denying Elon Musk's $58 billion compensation package. Many people are saying this is going to be a negative catalyst for the company and the stock. I don't see that. I just don't think Elon is kind of wired like that. Obviously, we all run off of incentives, but it seems like Tesla is a massive passion for Elon, and so are all his other companies. All right, so let's say hi to everybody in the chat, and we'll kick this stream off. I see Larry Adams. What's going on? Leslie is here. The one and only Hank P. What's up, Hank? DC322. This is not much, or not anymore with Elon. I don't know what that means. John, what's going on? Nicholas. This is I'll be in the city December 21st to the 22nd. Love that. Paul McNeely is here. Good to see you, Paul. Hopefully you had a wonderful Thanksgiving holiday. Professor Dario, cheers. Ed Dunkel is lurking. Ed, any thoughts on the big decision regarding Elon Musk's pay package? You think that's a little bit overstepping the boundaries there? I would love to know your opinion on that. Hey, Florida boy in Atlanta, thank you so much for your $20 donation. This is at Simple Capitalism. Shareholders, including me, voted twice. Yeah, it's, I think it's pretty cut and dry on my end, right? I am open to hearing other arguments on the other side, though. But if the shareholders voted on the compensation package and they approved it twice now, they actually voted on it twice. I think that should be more than enough to approve. Again, kind of like I said at the very, very beginning, and I believe we can all, well, maybe not all of us, but most of us can probably agree on this. If it was any other CEO but Elon, we probably wouldn't even be having any of this conversation. That's just in my opinion. But Florida boy in Atlanta, thank you very much for your support and donation. Nikki says, yup, huge Elon fan. A lot of the time, the amount of money you receive equals the amount of value you bring to the world. Electric car tech has been revolutionary. The judge shouldn't be stepping in. Very nicely said. If it really wasn't for Tesla and Elon Musk, you wouldn't have this big push for electric vehicles in the United States, in my opinion. Which, not to get too political, this was one of my main critiques of the Biden administration, because it was like Elon and Tesla was like exiled from any type of praise or inclusion, I should say, regarding EVs. But anyway, yeah, Reggie44 says, glad the Intel CEO retired or was told to retire. Yeah, I think he was kind of forced out. There's a really good follow on the X platform. Really, really good follow. His name, Jim Osman. I'm trying to figure out what his handle is, but if you just type in Jim Osman, Intel, he's written many, many articles this year kind of bashing Intel and writing letters to the company and to the board to essentially say, look, you got to oust this CEO and get a new CEO. Turns out he was spot on. The LT Prod is here. Cheers. Yes, is only because Tesla isn't unionized. That's true. It is very true. SLA says, sorry, believe it's definitely an overstep. Kevin says, the only people in America pushing for electric vehicles is our stupid government. Nobody else wants the damn things. Maybe. I kind of agree and disagree. I personally like EVs. I said once before that when it comes time for me to get a vehicle, it'll definitely be an EV 100%. And in about 90% likelihood it'll be a Tesla. But the government has really been pushing this and jamming it down everybody's throats. That I agree. Tesla James 007 says, if not overturned, judges in Delaware would run companies and not the owners / the shareholders. That's kind of how I feel. It's a very... I don't want to be like an alarmist and say it's scary, but... I wouldn't be, if this ruling isn't overturned, right, as Tesla James 007 said, I wouldn't be incorporating a new business in Delaware. Let's just say that. That's just my humble opinion as we walk down Fifth Avenue here. Sunshine after rain, welcome. Hank P says every other vehicle out here in LA is a Tesla or electric type vehicle. Kevin says EVs are great for working around town in New York, Chicago, LA, Miami. Great for any other purpose. Or do you mean like it's more like it's more of a like city thing? Yeah, it's, that I agree. It's because the United States is a massive country, right, in terms of land mass. So, of course, it's going to be extremely difficult if you want to take a cross-country road trip with a Tesla. It's going to be a pain, right? Regardless of what, the massive Tesla bulls say, and I'm, a major raging Tesla bull, it is cumbersome. The main problem is the United States doesn't have a robust EV charging network. That's really the big issue there. I think over time we will get there. This is St. Patrick's Cathedral. All right, let me catch up on a few more comments. I think the angle of this camera is off a little bit, but we'll just have to work with it. 10 Red Buffs is what happened to the $7.86 billion Biden sent in Intel. Now, the funny thing is this, right? Intel benefited from that the most, but in my humble opinion, they are the worst semiconductor company out there, in my view. Maybe it'll turn around with the new CEO. Florida boy in Atlanta says, respectfully, road trips are not a problem. So I was looking at, because I may need to get a car sooner rather than later. And by sooner, I mean, I don't know, maybe 12 to 18 months. So I was on Tesla's website, right? And some of the offers are pretty insane for leasing a Tesla. Correct me if I'm wrong, but you could lease a Tesla right now. I'm talking about a Model Y, right? You could lease a Tesla Model Y right now for about $3,000 down and roughly $185 a month. I think for the cheapest model. Now, I'm not a car guy. I've never had a car, right? Being in the city, so I don't really know all the technicals, but that's a pretty good deal. That's not bad. $3,000 down, $185 a month for a Tesla Model Y, the most basic, package. That seems like a pretty decent deal. I mean, anybody here who leases a Tesla or leases an EV? Who Dat Dave says buy one used. They have horrible resale value. Now, Who Dat Dave, that's spot on. That's absolutely correct. That's another reason why I don't think I would ever buy a Tesla right now, because prices are still going to come down. Think about all of the people, to Dave's point, over the last 2 years who purchased a Tesla. Oh my God, you talk about a depreciating asset. They got absolutely cooked on that. So when I'm doing like the cost-benefit analysis of leasing versus buying, I don't know. I feel like leasing is a better option. That's just my opinion. Maybe I'm wrong. We probably have more car experts here in the chat than me. I don't really know anything about it, but that seems like a pretty decent deal. DC322 says lease, then buying it. Florida boy in Atlanta says, Tom, that $185 a month includes anticipated gas savings. The actual lease is about $299 per month, but still. Got it. Oh, I did read that on the website. That makes sense. But still, $300 a month, that's not bad. So the Cybertruck, to lease a Cybertruck, then that's probably like an $1,100 a month lease, which is, that's just too much. I think I need to have some ridiculous disposable income to lease a Cybertruck. But the Model Y seems fine. The only reason why I was looking into the Model Y is because we've had about, quite literally, maybe 12 to 15 people in the chat here recently, over the last, year or so, tell me that they just recently got a Model Y and they loved it. So maybe I'll give it a shot. Tesla James says, Tom, I have 3 Teslas, tremendous savings on gas and maintenance. That's really good to know. Alan says, you're better off buying, in my opinion. for your situation, you aren't likely to dump it anytime soon after buying it. Possibly, but Alan, the only thing I'm thinking is I want the new tech every so often, right? So it's a 36-month lease, so 3 years. And then after 3 years, there's probably going to be better Tesla model that comes out, and I could just roll the lease into the newer one, I guess. I still have to do more thinking and planning, but we'll see. This is the front of Saks Fifth Avenue. Alan says if you want the upgrade cycles, then yes, 100% lease. You're always covered by the warranties too. Let me get to a few more comments. Solar Bear says, Tom, I leased a Model 3 and now the Model Y. It is worth it. Very low maintenance, if any. Also, the Tesla always gets software updates. That's another thing that's cool. I'm sure you guys... I've been watching a lot of car reviews on YouTube. I'm like in that stage, and they're extremely, extremely addicting. And some of the Model Y and Model X reviews, I mean, if it was up to me, I would really much prefer a Model X, but that's very expensive. John says, lease the Cybertruck because you could take advantage of the 7500. Oh, look at this. I think I've never seen this before. Look at that. I know, Steve. My camera should be like this, but it's kind of on an angle tonight, which I apologize for, but let's try to get around all the police barricades and then we'll do one more lap around. Hey, what's going on, Oh Wise Owl? Brad says, I watched a couple of YouTube videos of Tesla, the full self-driving upgrade. How much is the Brad? How much is that full self-driving upgrade? I think it's like $8,000. When I was looking at the website today, that's kind of worth it. I mean, it's cool. I was watching some of the demonstrations, and it's really freaking impressive. The full self-driving package for Tesla, like that is significantly impressive. All right, let's just snake our way through the tourist crowd here, and we'll get a good view of St. Patrick's, and I'll catch up on some of the chats. Hey, what's going on, Joe E? VLT Pros says you can get a 2023 Model Y for $24,000. Miami Walking and Driving says, or you can subscribe for $99 per month for the full self-driving. That's not bad at all. So the Model Y, I believe, is the best-selling vehicle in America. But, you know, kind of moving the conversation back to, which I do appreciate all the advice, by the way. I've never purchased a car before, or leased one. So it's good to get kind of that insight from people who are more experienced. And look, every time I talk about Tesla, there's always some raging fans in the audience. And that is huge when you're talking about an investment, right? When you have people that are so obsessed and like infatuated with the company, that is a clear tell that the company is doing something right. And I expect more people to start to kind of catch the Tesla bug across the United States. So I am very bullish the stock. We had some good action today. Obviously, it's down a little bit after hours due to the kind of the pay package rejection that were discussing just a few moments ago. If you're just joining us, that's pretty much the biggest news of the day. The $58 billion pay package to Elon Musk was denied, even after shareholders voted on it, not once but twice. The judge struck it down. This is, in my opinion, a huge overreach, but what do I know? Hey, what's going on, Hawaii? Cheers. Pretty soon this is going to be lit. December 4th. Dave says, are you cold right now? Pretty cold. It's just windy, that's the thing. You guys probably can't tell because I have the wind mic on it, but it's pretty windy tonight. Juniors choose BYD, cheaper and better than Tesla. I love Teslas, and I want to support an American car company. Peters, did you see Neuralink got approval to launch a feasibility study to test the use of the N1 chip to control an assistive robotic arm in one person? I saw something like that breaking on X, which is also very good news. I think that's going to be one of the most impactful companies of this century. Douglas says they will start off with the excessive $58 billion and then work their way down to a ruling. Kevin says those flags in the background, yeah, really do show off the whipping winds for sure. Mike G says, living in the city, do you really need a car? It's more so if I'm going to be spending more time in Miami and if I get a place out of the city. Like north of the city, like maybe New Rochelle or something like that. I just don't know for sure. Let me see if I can give you a view of the ice skating rink. Dave says it's literally impossible to charge 3 Teslas and not see any increase in your electricity bill. Well, I don't know if I would get 3, or maybe somebody. Anyway, I like the design they've printed on the 30 Rock. Yeah, Reggie's SMCI, what a day. I think SMCI was up 30% today. I mean, that stock has just been like a ripping roller coaster. Yeah, that is true. Kevin says, I think Tesla down in Florida would be a lot better than Tesla in New York because of the warm weather. For sure. I'm not sure if anybody saw this, but there was this one analyst, I forget his name, that has always had like an $86 price target for Tesla. And today, he comes out and revises his model, and he puts an outperform rating on Tesla. Now, it's not to, poke fun at the analyst, but it is also a very good lesson, because I very, very seldom take what analysts say about a company into consideration. I read a lot of analyst reports. I read a lot of equity research reports. But if you notice something, if you go across the board on the street, right, you go to every single major investment bank on Wall Street, what do you notice? When you have an analyst, like an equity research analysts put out a price target on a specific stock, you notice they're all kind of grouped together within a very, very slim margin. And it's like that for a reason, right? Because many of these analysts just want to keep their jobs, and very, very seldom do you have somebody making a big call, right? Like a big call on a specific stock. What they'll do is you'll have every single, stock analyst on the street put their price targets within maybe 10% of one another. Same thing with like the the full year-end projections, price targets for the S&P 500. Every single analyst will be like within a few hundred points of one another. It's really like that for a reason. There's only a few analysts that really stick their neck out on the street and give like actual calls. I think Tom Lee is one of them, mainly because he owns his own company. I think there's a pretty interesting correlation there, right? Tom Lee sometimes takes a lot of heat for making these big calls, but the reason why he can do that is because, well, nobody could fire Tom Lee. Tom Lee is an entrepreneur. He owns his own company. But a lot of these guys and girls that they have on CNBC, equity research analysts at UBS, at Goldman, it's like we're going to give a neutral rating or an outperform, and it's like just the same targets as everybody else on the street because they want to keep their jobs. So another thing you got to realize when you're investing, if like you're a portfolio manager, you're running money, right? These analysts are not running money. They're just analyzing stocks. They don't have any skin in the game, okay? So take what they say with a grain of salt, and it's going to sound quite obvious, but do your own research. There's a lot of times when you'll have a beat and raise quarter of a company, right? They'll beat earnings expectations, and then they'll raise forward guidance, and you see everybody on the street will raise their price targets after they had a terrible, terrible price target just the day before. They don't have any skin in the game. They're not running money. They don't have their own money in this. So I would put more weighting, right, if you're going to, listen to anybody else or, stack and file and rank it, what actual PMs are saying that have positions in these companies, right? And you could look at that like a 13F filing or something like that. So always kind of take what analysts say with a very, very small grain of salt, because analysts do not have any skin in the game. I just want to go across the street here and take a look at the tree from this angle. But if you guys are enjoying the live stream tonight, feel free to leave a like on the video. Click the subscribe button if you're new. Also, just a quick reminder, we will be sending out our 2025 market outlook this week. So if you want to read all of our research that we're going to be sending out this week, it's our annual letter, Outlook for 2025, all of the interesting thematics that we've come up with, and we could do a little bit of a comparative analysis to see how we did for the previous year. You could just scan the QR code on your screen and punch in your email. That'll take you to our Behind the Street newsletter, our Substack, and that should be out either Wednesday or Thursday of this week. So feel free to check it out. Let's go to the New York Palace here. Hey, Patrice 2020, good to see you. Since we're here, we'll go over to the New York Palace. Yeah, the LT Plaza's Macy's earnings was delayed because they found a former employee hid $184 million. I think it was like an inventory issue, which, I don't know, that sounds a little bit fishy to me. And apparently it was one person. That it was due to just one guy. I think something, I don't know. Maybe I'll hold my tongue on that. Hey, what's up, Dale? Good to see you. Wow, Aloe Willow. This is the Bay Area. Cities are filled with people driving Teslas every day. I count 25 to 40 easily. And you're starting to see a lot more in New York City, too. I'm starting to see a lot more Cybertrucks. I always make sure I be on the lookout for Cybertrucks because those are big ticket items. And a lot of people seem to be buying them or leasing them. Yeah, Douglas is 184 million in misplaced inventory seems legit. Yeah, it probably has something to do with like an organized theft, but I have no data to support that supposition. But if I had to try to assign a reason behind it, I would definitely say it's probably due to something like that. Brad's Brains says if you're going to steal from the balance sheet, don't take 184 million. It's another cold night in New York. Feels like it's in the 20s again. Hank P. I do have a driver's license. I just don't drive because I live in the city. But I know how to drive. Oh, nice. My game addiction since I was in New York City today. And I saw the Louis Vuitton building. It was amazing. It's pretty unique, right? It's extremely, extremely unique. We're just going to make a left on here on Madison Avenue. You know what I've been noticing now that the sun is going down much earlier? I'm noticing I'm getting a little bit more brain fog. Anybody else notice that? Or maybe that's just like an anecdotal thing? Over the last, I'd say, 2 or 3 weeks, I wouldn't say I'm more forgetful, but... And I know it's because of the lack of sun. Because every time I go back to Miami, it's like, boom. It's like I feel like I have way more energy. It happens every winter. It's like the winter lethargic. It's crazy. I know Hawaii says it was dark before 5 p.m. when I was there. Freaked me out. Yeah, and it's cold. It's not that I have low energy levels. It's just, it feels like I can't remember, like, thoughts. It sucks. Yeah, it's true. Tesla James says increase your vitamin D3. I should have to start supplementing during the winter, for sure. There was an article, I think, in the New York Times that over 90% of New Yorkers have a vitamin D deficiency, not necessarily because of the cold and it gets dark early, but everybody's usually always inside in their office towers, right? So this time of year, everybody gets to the office, it's dark. They leave the office, at 5, it's dark. So you're pretty much living your life in darkness. So if you do have the opportunity to maybe spend 1 or 2 weeks somewhere warm, maybe take a trip to South Florida, or maybe take a trip to California, Southern California for a few weeks. It definitely is worth it. So what we're looking at right now, everybody, is the Lotte New York Palace. Libby Hicks says yes, vitamin D2. Yeah, Doc 7, maybe that's true too. Doc 7 says maybe it's because you walk a gazillion miles at night and need more sleep. Well, the funny thing is, I feel more energetic when I do these walks, and particularly right after we end the broadcast. It's like I have, it's like I'm an Energizer bunny, and I think it's just because of the exercise. If you exercise, particularly cardio, it really wakes you up. They finally have the courtyard open. We'll do a quick walk around. Once again, this is the New York Palace by Lotte. Hey, what's up, Ben? Good to see you. Brad says, I'm a supplement freak and a gym rat. I've taken vitamin D3 every day for years. Leslie says, if you do a morning walk, then you get more. Yeah, that's true. But I also have to work. That's why I do these streams so late. It's interesting, though, because I definitely feel the change. Richard, what's going on? Peter says, I take every day D-Zinc. Magnesium, and quercetin. Haven't had a cold in 8.5 years. Whew. Hey, what's up, Ben? Good to see you. Now, Ben, what's your thoughts on Elon Musk's, well, I should say the decision to block the $58 billion pay package for Elon Musk today? What are your thoughts? Even after shareholders voted on it. Yeah, Leslie says don't forget vitamin C. Totally agree. Every time I forget to supplement with vitamin C, I can really feel my energy levels drop a little bit. Let me just take my hood off here. Hello, Made 2008 says, I think it's not fair. Shareholders and company agreed to pay Musk long ahead of time. Yeah, it's definitely a massive overstep. If it sticks, right, they're going to appeal it. But if it sticks, I definitely would not be incorporating a business in Delaware anymore, in my view. Susanna Q4, cheers. Thanks for joining. Cruz says, I thought the pay package deal went through months ago. So it did, but a judge struck it down. Yeah, Cruz, this has been going on for a long time. Ben says political shareholders, not a good mix. Yeah, I don't know about that. I think that's a wild take, but I respect the take. I think I'm incorporated in New York. New England crypto, what's going on? Cheers. This is like a winter bar at the Palace. Maybe we'll take a pit stop inside Grand Central. I want to be GMOs as well after all the New York stuff this year. Does that make sense? It's for me. It still makes sense. Yeah, for me. Yes. I hear Wyoming has a lot of good advantages. It's a very business-friendly environment, but I believe we've had this conversation before. Yeah, it's true that New York has really ridiculous taxes, but it also has really ridiculous opportunities too, right? In a good way, not ridiculous in a negative way. And I don't really mind the high taxes. What I do mind, going back to the founding fathers, it's just very simple. No taxation without representation. So if you have the high taxes, but you also have really good services and the quality of life is really good, then everything is kosher, everything is cool, right? And the problem with New York is we pay all these high taxes, but it's very, very dysfunctional. That's the problem, right? Highest taxes, and if you want to even go down a little bit more narrower and talk about New York City has the highest taxes, right? So if you live in New York, you pay New York state tax, right? But let's say if you live in New York City and you work in New York City, you have to pay New York City tax. So that's an added tax. So it's very, very high, but New York City has one of the highest homeless populations in the United States. I believe we almost have 90,000 homeless people in New York City, which is really heartbreaking, honestly. And one of my hopes with, DOGE, the Department of Government Efficiency, obviously that's at the federal level, but hopefully money can just be managed a little bit better, right? Because money doesn't solve problems. We've talked about this before. Money does not solve any problems if the money is being managed by a poor steward, right? You need good stewardship of the money, right? If you give the state of California, $100 billion to solve the homeless crisis will get worse, right? So there needs to be the appropriate incentivization structure set up, and you need to have people that are ethical that are managing the money. It needs to be very efficient. So hopefully that'll be one of the main things that changes, because with the amount of tax revenue that New York City brings in, we should really be firing on all cylinders here. We should have the most modern subways, everything. I understand that the infrastructure here in New York City is very old, but with the amount of money we take in, with the amount of just smart people here, we should have the most modern subway system in the world. If you go to some countries in Asia, like Korea, and you see their subway system, it's like, oh my gosh, like what are we doing here? Black ribbons, is we also need mental health care as well. Touche, agreed. Cruz says, yeah, I've seen stuff on Twitter about how California invests a ton of money into preventing homelessness, and it's just not working. Well, it's a lot of bureaucracy. There's people in the state of California that are getting paid six-figure big salaries to allocate this money to quote unquote solve the homelessness. But if you're making a big six-figure salary and a very cushy job, do you have any incentive to solve the homeless problem? Probably not. If anything, you have a big incentive to make it worse. So you keep your job, you could hire more people, and you could justify your job, right? That's the problem. So, yeah, someone said the homeless industrial complex. Unfortunately, that is the case. Now, here's another big thing, though, not to spend too much time on that subject. If you ever talk to some of these homeless people on the streets, and I have, I'm actually friends with a few, like actually really good friends since I was young. Most of them want to be out on the street. It's really a mental health crisis, right? If you walk the streets of New York City and you see some of the homeless population, it's impossible for them to hold a steady job, right? That may sound kind of, negative to say and mean, but it's true. I mean, these people suffer from severe mental health issues, and if they don't get the treatment that they need consistently, there's no way they would be able to hold a steady job, pay rent, take care of themselves. It's just impossible. Even if you wrote everybody a check for $1 million, it'd be gone in, probably a few months, right? So it's unfortunately, that's just how it is. It kind of goes back to the point, money really isn't the issue. Yeah, Brian says most homeless are addicted. That's true. That's another major problem. Harvard, and you don't really need a Harvard Business School study for this, but I think Harvard did a study, and there's always some very common characteristics, right, between people who are unfortunately homeless, and they unfortunately didn't graduate high school. That's number one. And they suffer from some sort of an addiction. That's number two. And they've had children at a young age. And by a young age, I mean under 20. That if you just don't do those three things, and again, those are simultaneously lumped on top of one another. So it's important to have a stable base, right? If you grow up in a home where maybe it's a single mother, you don't have that guidance, it's really, really tough. So, maybe it's even just a values thing, right? Growing up, with only one parent in the house, that's really, really tough. So to have those role models to stay away from drugs, a lot of people don't have that, and it's really, really tough. So it's a very complex problem to solve. Hey, Jonathan from Florida. Looks like it's garbage night. Wow, it's a lot of garbage. Damn, that's a lot. I think that's another reason why education is so important, because the more you learn, the more you understand just how many opportunities are out there in the world. So when you have kids, unfortunately not graduating from high school, it's almost a pretty much guaranteed failure, which is really, really sad. Here we're coming up on Avenue of the Americas. They finally put up the nutcrackers outside of the UBS. N3 says my wife and I want to visit New York City. When's the best time to do so? I think it's the best in the summer, just because I'm not a big fan of the cold. I think you're going to be able to experience a lot more of the city in the summer, to be honest. It's hard to kind of walk around Central Park and be out all the time if it's freezing. So I would say the summer. There's no place to be like New York City in the summer. This is a pretty cool looking shot here. Rick says February is nice because it's probably the cheapest. Yeah, but February could be brutal in New York. Like whipping winds, freezing. You can't really enjoy the city like that. The summer, Central Park, everybody's out. It's just like a big party every day in New York City. Just the energy in the city is unreal in the summer. Yeah, random YouTube viewer says early fall or late spring are the best. I don't know, I like it hot. It's just my opinion. Yeah, Alex411 says, I'd love to visit the New York Stock Exchange. However, I hear you can't do that. Well, you could go to the New York Stock Exchange. Just unfortunately, you can't go inside anymore. I think after 9/11, they've closed it to the public. I was really, really lucky and I was invited to go. So thank you very much for the person who invited me. It was unbelievable. It's really, a massive piece of U.S. history there. It's awesome. If you do get the chance to go to the New York Stock Exchange, ask them to take you to the Buttonwood Agreement because they have the original Buttonwood Agreement on display. It's very, very cool. Here's Radio City. Let's see how busy Times Square is tonight. We haven't been there in a long time. Yeah, Brad, it was really awesome. Now, the company that day that was ringing the closing bell was Invella. The ticker symbol is ELA. We'll go all the way down to Times Square. I think this week is Art Basel in Miami. Not too sure if anybody's there. I'm going to be headed down to Florida Saturday. And please God, God willing, I'll be there for about 2 weeks. Hopefully the weather warms up down there because it's been kind of cold. It's been like 56 degrees in Miami, which is crazy. Like 56 to 60 degrees at night, which might as well be characterized as a snowstorm for down there. Miss Perez says it's been great weather. It's really good sleeping weather, right? Wow, Troy Atman says, Tom, it'll drop to 38 tonight in Tampa. Holy crap, that's freezing. Now, a 60 degrees at night in Miami feels really cold because it's very humid there. So it feels much, much colder than it is. I had one of my tenants message me today, putting in like a service request for the air conditioning. I got it this morning. And I was like, what? The tenants are complaining about the AC. So I said, had the maintenance guy just respond, send me a picture of the thermostat. So the thermostat was set to 70, and the temperature of the house was 70. So I had to explain to the tenants how the thermostat works. I'm like, if it's set to 70, and it is 70, obviously it's not going to be blowing. And I said, look, you don't need to turn it down anything below 70, because it's 68 degrees out. I mean, if you want to, be my guest, but just open the windows. I mean, that's my preference. Miami, Florida in the winter, just open the windows at night. This is the Wicked. I think that's a Broadway show. Which maybe they turned into a movie. Reggie 44 is also a movie now. That'll probably crush. Because that's that famous actress, right? Or singer. Ariana Grande. She's like super famous, popular. So the movie will probably crush. Hey, Dr. Murray Hill, MD, says, yes, the movie version just came out. It did $214 million the first week. Wow. What were some of the most successful movies that like really broke box office. I remember, you know what movie I used to see as a kid all the time? Those Pirates of the Caribbean movies. Those movies really, really crushed. The reason why I remember it is because I would go to the midnight showings. Anybody remember those? I don't know if they still do them anymore. I don't go to the movies. But right around my birthday, May 25th, oh, nice Cybertruck. They would do the midnight showings. And I think that still holds a record. Awesome Cybertruck. Bullish Tesla, bullish Elon Musk. Hopefully he gets his 58 billion pay package. We'll see. Wow. Dr. Murray Hill says Avatar did 3 billion. Wild. Now, kind of tying this back into the financial conversation, there was actually a really good interview with Ben Affleck surrounding artificial intelligence and the movie business, right? Because many people are like, AI is going to make actors and actresses obsolete because you could just have an AI make and replicate any personality and you don't have to pay the AI. I would really suggest checking out that interview. He actually did make a lot of good points. And it was quite impressive. I mean, you know, maybe it's a little bit ignorant on my end, but you wouldn't think that an actor would be like super well versed in AI, but he made a lot of really good points. So if you want to watch that interview, you could just type in on YouTube Ben Affleck impacts of AI. It was a pretty interesting interview actually about how AI is going to change movie budgets and the frequency in which movies will be able to be released. He was saying that it's more than likely over the long term that less movies will be made for theaters and more movies will be made for like streaming platforms and stuff, which is bullish Netflix, long Netflix. So maybe you'll have more like a Netflix original series movies and stuff, which makes sense, right? If the cost of production is going to go down, and the distribution medium is changing, more people have Netflix and the like, maybe it's just more advantageous and more profitable to have maybe, you know, a handful of A-list actors crush out more movies and distribute them on streaming services. Yeah, Mark Francis 076 says, yeah, I saw it. He made good points. And I never really thought about it like that. I mean, I'm not in the movie business. I don't really know too much about it, but what he was saying made sense. Anyway, if you guys are enjoying the live stream so far tonight, feel free to leave a like on the video and click the subscribe button if you're new. Mark Francis says that's why Adam Sandler signed a Netflix contract. Now, who was, I think Adam Sandler was the highest paid actor last year. Is that true? Maybe somebody could fact check that. When the numbers came out, I know somebody surprising was on the top of the list. I think Adam Sandler made like some ridiculous amount of money last year. And I mean, God bless him. He's a funny guy. I'm trying to think of my favorite Adam Sandler movie. Wow. Lawrence is 73 mil. Holy crap. That's insane. Lawrence is $250 million 4-movie deal with Netflix. That is, I can't even wrap my head around that number. Middle-Aged Grinds is Big Daddy. I think that may be my favorite too. That's the one that's based in New York City, right? And he made like a few $1,000,000 because he got hit by a car or something like that. Or maybe I'm thinking of something completely different. All right, let's bang a left here. We'll head down by Numora. Joanne Waterboy, that was a good one. Dave S. Happy Gilmore, that's another good one. Hey Corey, this is hey, I love your walks. I've heard you talk about cryptocurrency before on your channel. My question is, what are your thoughts on XRP or Ripple? Well, I don't own any Ripple, and I don't own any altcoins. But Ripple's up 400% in the last month. I think maybe even a little bit less time than a month. I own a lot of Bitcoin, and I've been bullish on Bitcoin since late 2016. The main thing that I think people need to understand around the Bitcoin and cryptocurrency ecosystem, which we've kind of talked about before, is that we're getting new leadership at the SEC, right? So the former chair of the Securities and Exchange Commission was Gary Gensler. Gary Gensler is out of there come January 20th, and we're going to get an SEC chair that is more pro-crypto and willing to lay guidelines for the industry, right? Better regulation. And that's what everybody's been asking for all along. The crypto industry has really been bastardized in the United States, and unfortunately that has pushed a lot of investment offshore, unfortunately. It's pushed a lot of talent offshore to places like Abu Dhabi, which that really should be in the United States. So the bet is that now that we are going to have a more favorable regulatory framework for the cryptocurrency and Bitcoin space, you'll probably have the SOB 121 regulation, which essentially mandates banks to hold custody of Bitcoin and other crypto assets on the balance sheet. That's probably going to go away. So it'll encourage more investment, particularly from institutional players like pension funds and the like. So that's really the main bull thesis. And I don't own any of the altcoins. I wouldn't recommend anything. I can't recommend anything, but the whole industry is probably going to get a pretty big bid on the news, and it already has. So yeah, but I don't own any Ripple or XRP. Hey, what's up, Esmeralda? This is Hey Tom and Friends. How's it going? Going pretty good. It's a little cold though. It's the only thing. It's a little cold, but the wind is dying down. I don't know if that's just because we're on 8th Avenue or not, but it's kind of a nice night. I'm tempted to pop into this bodega and get a coffee or something. Jay says TRX. TRX is what, Tron? Didn't Justin just buy a banana for like $18 million with a piece of duct tape on it or something crazy? Peter says, what is a stable coin? They're used for liquidity for trading. Ooh, look at this big pile of garbage. So if you're an institution, if you're a hedge fund, or if you're a trader and you're trading Bitcoin, if you make a gain in Bitcoin, you could sell into a stable coin and vice versa. It's used for liquidity. Now, the CEO of Cantor Fitzgerald, who I've been talking about for quite some time, who's a really good guy, by the way, like a fundamentally good human being, CEO of Cantor Fitzgerald. The years after 9/11, he took 20% of all the profits of the company and gave it back to everyone who lost their life on 9/11, which was more than half of the company, right? Because Cantor was on one of the top floors of the World Trade Center that took a direct hit from the plane, which killed more than half of his company. And the crazy thing is, Howard Lutnick structured the company. He was CEO at the time. Structured the company to where he would only hire friends and family. So about 70% of friends and family were killed. So he rebuilt the company right into the monster that it is today, while giving 20% of the profits. I think it might have been a little bit more, while giving 25% of the profits around there to the families of the victims. I don't know where I was going with that. Oh yeah, so Tether is backed 1-to-1 with Cantor, according to him. This is that construction site for the new Extel building that is on pause. Wow, Dr. Murray Hill, MD, says, I heard Justin's son also financially helped out the fruit vendor who sold them the bananas for the art piece? No way. I didn't hear about that. That's funny. I mean, could you guys imagine having that much money where you could just spend... How much did he spend on that banana? $8 million? I forget the exact amount it was, but it's just crazy, stupid stuff. $6.2 million, yeah. Most of that, actually, I can't say that. Allegedly, a lot of that stuff is allegedly money laundering. But could you imagine having that much disposable wealth where you could just on a whim? But it's also probably a marketing stunt too for Tron or whichever his cryptocurrency is. If you think about it, everybody's talking about this guy who spent $6 million on a banana with, what was it, duct tape or scotch tape? A piece of scotch tape. Maybe it brings about more publicity to the project, I guess. I don't know. It's just stupid stuff. Here's 3 of these holdout buildings, which are beautiful. I know New England cryptos. Justin's son money laundering? Never. I'll keep my mouth shut on that one. I mean, good for the artist, right? I mean, whoever the artist is. Congrats to him or her. This is the Row, which is the largest New York City migrant intake center. Now, I guess we'll take a little bit of a poll. Yeah, Black Ribbon. I did see the bird on Tiffany's. I just noticed it like a week ago. It's quite nice. Now, we know that December December during an election year usually has the greatest stock market returns. The funny thing, though, is that the S&P is already above 6,000, and we're already plus 20% for the year. So the question is, who in the audience believes we're going to continue to rally here into year end and have a very, very strong Santa Claus rally, as they call it? And who thinks we're going to have a little bit of a pullback, or if we trade flat until the rest of the year? What do you guys think? Are we going to have a very strong Santa Claus rally, or do we already get it? And a lot of the Trump trade is already priced in. I'd love to know your thoughts as we approach 42nd Street Port Authority bus terminal, the beauty of the Port Authority. Florida boy in Atlanta says the rally should continue. Cody Blankenbecker says bullish. Larry Adams says rally. Reggie 44 says still rally. Hello Mate 2008 as well. So it seems like pretty much everybody is saying rally. All the data points to a rally. Ooh, that guy almost got nailed. A little bit of a freak show. Yeah, Brad's Brain says, I listened to Jim Ropel on IBD earlier, and he echoed your thoughts. He thinks pullback end of year and after the beginning of the new year due to bonuses and tax implications. Yeah, Jim is great. I work with Jim. Jim Ropel is the CEO and founder of Ropel Capital Management, unbelievable hedge fund manager. And if you're an accredited investor and you want to invest in the fund, I think the fund is opening for next year. So Jim has 3 funds in total. You can watch some of his podcasts on Investors Business Daily. He's often on there. But he runs a Can Slim strategy, which, if anybody is familiar with Bill O'Neill, one of the greatest position size traders really of our generation. Unfortunately, he passed away about 2 years ago. They have a large cap growth. They have a small cap growth fund that is run by Eve Bobach. So Eve used to work for the Federal Reserve, and she's the author of the book Life Cycle Trade, which is an amazing book about IPOs. So one of the largest studies ever done on price performance, historical price performance, and the characteristics of winning IPOs. Check out that book. It's called Life Cycle Trade by Eve Bobach and Kathy Donnelly. Great book. And then they have a crypto fund, which has really killed it this year. The Inkwells is where all the mopeds. Well, the NYPD has really cracked down on that. If you guys remember the live streams in the summer, 8th Avenue, it was like a wall of mopeds. But the NYPD collects those illegal mopeds and they take them to some sort of a yard, and I believe they crush them, like with steamrollers and all this crazy stuff. So they've seized a ton of them. The NYPD has been, and it really makes a difference. It really, really does. 8th Avenue actually looks pretty good. I was just thinking that to myself right now. I'm like, 8th Avenue actually looks really good. Yeah, there was a huge confiscation of the illegal scooters / mopeds in New York City. Yeah, DC322 says they were a nuisance. And I think this year, tragically, in the summer, Didn't one of those illegal mopeds accidentally run over and I believe unfortunately killed that famous actress on the Upper West Side of Manhattan? Anybody remember that story this year? This was, I believe, in the 80s. I think this happened on 81st Street and West End Avenue. Maybe somebody could confirm or deny that, but there was like this very famous actress. She was older. I think she was in her 70s. And she got struck. It was like a hit and run accident on the Upper West Side with one of those mopeds. Or like an e-scooter or something. I remember that. It was like 3 accidents back to back to back this summer with that. Paul McNeely says Lisa Baines. I mean, I don't remember the name. I'm assuming that you're right, but maybe I'm just a little bit too. That's a little bit out of my time frame. Here's the main Target in Times Square. Target reported a horrendous quarter. Walmart really blew it out of the water. Oh wow, Hawaii says she was the actress in Gone Girl. That's such a tragedy. That's terrible. I believe the moped or the scooter or whatever it was going the wrong way in the bike lane. And you see, I saw that happen so many times this summer. The people will go the wrong way in the bike lane because they just don't know the rules of the road, so to speak. And I've seen so many head-on collisions with these little electric bikes. So these guys here and the moped guys, it's like they come whipping in at each other. Really got to be careful. Adventure says yes. Actress Lisa Baines was killed by an electric scooter in a hit-and-run style accident. Wow, was that 2021? Somebody said? Holy crap, that's felt like that was this summer. Time flies. Wow, Carol H., that's horrendous. Those mopeds are all over South Beach. Yeah, you really need to watch it, it's true. But damn, 2021. It feels like after the pandemic, time has just morphed. Times Square actually looks really clean tonight. Looks really good too. This is outside of Aladdin. Oh, look at this. Diego Maradona. To all of our Argentine viewers. Also, how do you hit somebody on a scooter and then just keep going? Like, that's how brazen some of these people are. They just don't care about anybody else but themselves. How do you crash into an old lady and then just say, yeah, I'm just going to keep going? That's insane. Anyway. Oh, wow. Hawaii was on Amsterdam Ave. Yeah, that sucks. Pretty soon, they're going to have the numerals on display. The 2025 numerals. Can you guys believe that? Hey, Leslie, thank you so much for your $5 donation. As we're looking up at One Times Square. This is the building where they dropped the ball on New Year's Eve. You know what? Let's actually go back and into Times Square and see if they have anything interesting on display. I haven't been here in a long time. Peter says, do you need insurance to drive a scooter in New York City? I think you need insurance if you have a moped or a Vespa, depending on the CC of the engine. The problem is that a lot of the people here, they get those mopeds to do the deliveries and they don't register them, right? So they're unregistered motor vehicles on the road. That's the big issue, right? So there's no way to track them, there's no way to trace them, so they're just, playing bumper cars, slamming into everybody, and there's no way to really track them down because there's no plates, because they're not registered to anything. So the Adams administration, Mayor Eric Adams, essentially what they've done is they go around, and if the scooter doesn't have a plate, they take it automatically and they bring it to some like NYPD yard, I think, in the Bronx, and they've been crushing them, like literally like just destroying them. We got the NASDAQ over to the right. Hey, Stephen Bate, good to see you. Leslie, this is Tom, buy a hot cup of coffee. I will thank you very much for your support. I appreciate you very much. Michael says that's why you have congestion pricing. Well, I don't know. I mean, congestion pricing doesn't... I don't see how that would factor in. Because criminals don't pay bills. They don't abide by the law, right? And that's the biggest problem with congestion pricing, because a lot of these people just have ghost plates. You need to look up ghost plates, NYC, and you'll kind of understand the problem. So there's people who print fake license plates in New York, right? And there's these random people all over New York and New Jersey that end up getting bills in the mail for tolls. And they're like, what? I never drove over the George Washington Bridge. I never left my house. Turns out that people are like changing one or two numbers on their license plates. And if you're unlucky, the change will be to your license plate number and you're getting billed for everybody else's tolls. So the only people who are going to pay the congestion pricing in New York City are just like the average working class person, unfortunately. The criminals are just going to have the ghost plates or no plates at all. Wow, Times Square is rocking tonight, and it's a Monday. It's good news for the businesses here. Look at this truck with the Christmas lights on. That's cool. The other night I saw a Cybertruck with Christmas lights on it. Doc 7 says the Chinese yuan plunges to its weakest level against the U.S. In more than 12 months. And pretty much a basket of all currencies. I think the rupee, the Indian rupee, I believe, plunged to its lowest level against the dollar. And, I mean, who remembers, we talk about it a lot, but who remembers our conversation about BRICS? Anybody remember that? And I constantly have said that BRICS is a non-issue. I've said that time and time again. All these people are saying that it's going to be the end of the US dollar. I said it's probably going to be the exact opposite. The dollar is probably going to see unbelievable strength in the coming years. And that's exactly what's playing out. So BRICS is just like an absolute non-issue joke, to be honest. All right, let's go to the red steps.
See a great show? It's funny. Let's go see a show, guys. Come on, let's explore.
Hey, New England Crypto, thank you so much for your $5 donation. Let's just keep it going. Thanks for everything. Thank you, New England Crypto. Appreciate it. If anyone's interested in Bitcoin mining and crypto mining, New England Crypto has a lot of interesting and good content over there, so check him out. Jack says BRICS isn't a joke, but it can domesticate it or be. I don't know what. Dalt says, how come you think BRICS isn't a threat? Well, I mean, just look at, just type in ticker symbol DXY, Dixie. Look where the Dixie is now. And look at all the currency pairs, right? Look at all of the kind of the BRICS nations currency pairs with the US dollar. I mean, it's not up and to the right. The only way you'll ever have a threat to the US dollar, essentially we'll know if there's going to be a threat. And what I mean by that is there'll be some sort of a hot conflict directly involving the United States. Because the US dollar is not backed by, the great economy. It's backed by a nuclear arsenal and the US military, right? If we're being blunt and honest. So if the US dollar was ever in jeopardy, you would have a massive raging hot war or very, very close to it. And so we would kind of know. That's just my personal opinion. Hey, Hawaii, thank you so much. Appreciate it for your kind $5 donations. Just keep it going. Thanks for walking in the cold for us. No problem. I appreciate it. Thank you for the support, and hopefully you enjoyed your time in New York. You know what? What the heck? Hawaii. Let's go ahead and go up on these red steps. Haven't been up there in a long time. We'll get some pretty good views. I like this Coca-Cola advertisement here. Katie says, just saw you on Earth Cam. I'm trying to figure out where the camera is for the Earth camera. Does that make sense? Is it on one of these telephone poles? Or is it on a building here? Does anybody know where the Earth camera is? Is it on the Marriott here? It might be. Oh, it looks like somebody's shooting a music video. Ah, Katie says it's behind us. So maybe it's on top of the monitor here. You can see it. Oh, maybe it's right here. Let me zoom in on it. Give me a second. I think that's the Earth camera. This conglomerate of cameras right here. At least I think so, right? Hey, Jonathan from Florida, thank you so much for your generous $5 donation. So here's another for another coffee. Appreciate it. Looking forward to seeing your walks in Miami. Yeah, I'll be down there. I'm flying Saturday. Saturday at 3 p.m. I will be touching down at Miami International Airport. Alex 11 says, I see you on camera. That's hilarious. So I think that is the Earth camera right there. Funny. Let's get a closer look as we cross as we climb the steps here. I wonder how much advertising revenue the Earth cameras bring in. Because they're running 24/7, 365, and every time you click on them, it produces an advertisement. I wouldn't be surprised if all of their cameras do over $1 million in revenue a year. I wouldn't be surprised. What do you guys think? If you had to guess, how much advertising revenue do you think the Earth cameras bring in? So the Times Square one, there's a bunch of them. Chooch Tex is much more. Well, let's put it this way. I think it's usually about $750 to $800 for every 100,000 views it produces. So I'm just trying to do the mental math here, like ballpark it. Yeah, losses, they consistently have 150 concurrent viewers on their Times Square cam alone. Yeah, so with like a travel niche, it'll probably be that. It's like for every 100,000 impressions, it's right around like maybe $600 or $700, depending on the time of the year. During the holidays, it's probably a little more. So whoever owns that Earth cam probably does really, really well. Oh yeah, Doug, you're right. There's also one in Herald Square too. I wonder who owns that. I mean, they have to have some sort of cooperation with the buildings. Maybe they have some sort of a lease agreement. Who knows? Now, when I worked for a big telecom company, I used to be really good friends with the guy who handled all of the leases for like T-Mobile cell towers. So what I mean by that is this. Sometimes T-Mobile or a big telecom company will contact like a big multifamily building or just like an office building and say, hey, let us put our antennas or an air rave or something like that on top of the building and we'll pay you X amount of dollars. Some of the money that, you know, T-Mobile and Verizon are paying out is insane. These people must be freezing. Now, it looks like the Express store went out of business. I used to work here as a teenager. And it looks like it's totally blown out. It's wild. see the 2024 numerals there. But yeah, it looks like this express is now totally out of business. That's crazy because I used to work right in here when I was like 18, 19 years old. Maybe a little, yeah, around there. I used to do all the floor plan, like restock all the shelves and stuff. Crazy to see it totally blown out. That was the most soul-crushing job I've ever had. If anybody's ever worked retail, particularly in a very high trafficked area like Times Square, like that is a soul-crushing job. So I would usually come in at like 9 or 10 o'clock at night and leave around 3 a.m. And the customers would just destroy the store. Like everything is out of order. And we needed to make sure the store was perfect for the next day, right? So you had to make sure all the sizes were in order. And you could imagine the amount of people who come through the store in Times Square. So everything is like a bomb hit it. It was like you were cross-eyed by the time you would head out. This is the entrance you would go in, by the way. This is like the security entrance. You would have the security guard there. You would punch in your code. Crazy, I remember all that. And then you take the service elevator up. And when you would leave for the night, the security guard would check your bags to make sure you didn't steal anything. Now, there used to be a McDonald's just to the left of that express store. I think it's like a Pele soccer store now or something. The amount of wild nonsense that I used to see in that McDonald's at 2, 3 in the morning, like I can't even begin to describe it because we'd probably get the channel demonetized. Yeah, Timothy James. This is Tom. Obviously, they spiraled since I left, for sure. Yeah, I was really holding down the fort there. Dr. Murray Hill, MD, is that McDonald's. And the one on West 3rd Street were both like World Star hip-hop videos every night. Yeah, so are you talking about the one, which was, if you want to talk about a horror show, that was the worst McDonald's ever. Right off of MacDougal Street. I'm near Washington Square Park. I think that's the one you're talking about, right? And right across the street, you had the basketball courts and the entrance to the West 4th subway station. It is. So Dr. Murray Hill, MD, yeah, West 3rd and 6th. It just got bought by the Comedy Cellar. Really? I didn't know that. Yeah, that one, it was like every single person who worked at that McDonald's should get like some sort of a class action lawsuit settlement for like $1 million each to put up with what they had to put up with. That's actually a very good acquisition by the Comedy Cellar, because that's a prime location, even though sometimes it could be a little bit grimy, but I'm excited to see what they're going to do with that. Yeah, Jack, that's a great location. This is the New York City Diamond District. We'll check out the News Corporation tree. as we walk back up towards Central Park South. Adults as I hit 10,000 on my business, but my profit margins suck. Should I pivot? I mean, what's the business? Let us know. I'm intrigued. And what are the margins? This is 1211 Avenue of the Americas. Well, just as a quick recap, one of the main topics of the night, if you were just joining, Elon Musk gets his $58 billion compensation package denied, blocked by the judge, even after shareholders voted on it and approved it. I think this is a huge overreach. Now, Elon Musk came on his X platform saying that they are going to appeal the decision, but we'll see. I also think they're in the process of incorporating the business in Texas and away from Delaware. It's going to be interesting to see what happens. Tesla stock down fractionally after hours. Very good action in Tesla today. And I'm still very, very bullish the company. Chloe's, Tom, did I also hear that Intel CEO is stepping down? Yeah, he is. He was pretty much forced out. I mean, he really ran that company into the ground. The problem with Intel, right, is they didn't really innovate. They spent a ton of money on share buybacks, share repurchase programs, and the like. And their R&D, their research and development really suffered. But that is very good news. Ah, 3T3. This is the already incorporated, yes. Thank you for that. Hopefully you had a good Thanksgiving. 3T3. This is the Tonight Show, NBC Studios, 1250 Avenue of the Americas. Adult. I have not traveled to London. I would love to, though. Would love to travel to London. All right, let's cross back over to 5th, and then we'll go all the way over to Madison. Hey, Bethy, good to see you. Thanks for joining. Hey, Chris, what's up? This is coming next week to Manhattan. Where should I get my Christmas steak? Ooh, that's awesome, Chris. Well, I would say to get 2 Christmas steaks, one of which, we just passed it, Del Frisco's, one of my favorite places of all time. You're really going to enjoy that. And the place looks really, really nice during the holidays. So I would say number 1, Del Frisco's. Number 2, Gallagher's. Check out Gallagher's Steak right off of Broadway. That's a really cool place. Food is really good, but the environment is also quite nice. The lunch special, like the business lunch on both of those places, are fantastic. It's a steal. I think it's like $36 or $46. It's really good. So I'd say Gallagher's and Del Frisco's. But I'm happy to hear you're coming to New York. It's awesome. Yeah, IPDs, I vote Gallagher's just because it's so unique to New York. It's awesome. It's an awesome place. Yeah, Leanne says you introduced us to Bourbon Steak. That's a really, really cool spot too. Maybe you could add that to the list, to Leanne's point. So Bourbon Steak is relatively new. If you're familiar with the JW Marriott Essex House, right on Central Park South, they did a total renovation to the lobby. They took down the old restaurant that serviced the hotel and they put in a really nice steakhouse called Bourbon Steak. It's pretty expensive there, but I mean, it's expensive everywhere in New York. But the dining room is really nice. So there's 2 separate dining rooms. There's like a lounge, and then there's the formal dining room all the way in the back. It's a really, really good place. And it's close. You know, Central Park South, close to everything. That's another good one to put on the list. DC322 says Peter Luger Steakhouse is a bit overrated. I agree. And it's far. You got to go all the way to Brooklyn to go there. I think it's too pricey, and I do think it's overrated as well. I think there's a bunch of other better steakhouses while staying in Manhattan. Yeah, Vinny says Spark Steak is pretty good. Spark Steakhouse is good as well. You know what's the one in Manhattan that I'm not a big fan of? Jean-Georges. Not a fan. That's at 1 Central Park West, inside the Trump International Hotel and Tower. I'm really not a fan of that restaurant at all. It's very expensive. And just quite frankly, it's not that good. Steve Long says, Tom, have you ever been to Le Marais on West 46th Street? Excellent French steakhouse. Let me take a screenshot of that. No, I haven't, but I will check it out. Thank you, Steven. I probably butchered the pronunciation of that. Twest Express is, what about a recommendation for those of us who don't like long dinners? I mean, if you don't like a long dinner, you could still go to a steakhouse and just tell them, hurry it up. That's why they have like the business lunches. You can be in and out of there in 30 minutes. But I mean, there's like 1,000 places in New York, like for takeout and stuff. But takeout is more like Asian cuisine. There's like a very good Thai restaurant that my friend owns. It's called Sen, Senn. It's on the Upper West Side. Also, my buddy owns another Thai restaurant called Tong. Now, if you have the time, okay, go to this restaurant, write it down. Tong, Tong. It has a Michelin star. And if you go there, let me know when you go there. You could send me an email or something. And I'll make sure my friend really takes care of you. You can sample everything. So it's the same owner. So Sen is on the Upper West Side, right on Amsterdam Avenue. And then Tong, Tong, is in Brooklyn. That place is amazing. Professor Dario says, what about the place at the Hudson Yards? That place is phenomenal. I'm horrible with names. You guys have to remind me of the place again. But yes, that place is fantastic at Hudson Yards. Man, this is going to kill me if I can't think about this. Let me see if I have a picture. Please stand by. Oh, Queen's Yard, yes. Queen's Yard. Check this out. I'll show you a picture of it. That's a very good spot. So here's Queen's Yard, right? So you're sitting down and you're looking right at the vessel, which is awesome. I was just there this weekend. So you're sitting down, the dining room is amazing, and you're overlooking the vessel at the Hudson Yard. So it's a crazy good view, and the food is very good as well. So yeah, Queen's Yard at the Hudson Yards. It's quite good. All right, let me take this down. The only thing about the Hudson Yards is very expensive over there too. Milton says, is it true the Hudson Yards is really struggling? Was surprised to hear that. It looks really nice. I wouldn't say it's struggling. I think, especially some of the commercial real estate there, right? The commercial Class A office towers, they're commanding ridiculous rents. Record price per rentable square foot. So if you think about a $200 price per rentable square foot, that's what some of those office towers at Hudson Yards are commanding. So 1 Manhattan West and 2 Manhattan West. There was just another major hedge fund that just signed a lease. The hedge fund is D.E. Shaw. But I think I gotta go because the phone is gonna die. So if you guys enjoyed the stream tonight, feel free to leave a like on the video, subscribe if you're new. If you want to receive our 2025 market outlook, just scan the QR code on your screen, punch in your email, and it'll take you to our 2025 market outlook. I'm going to send it Wednesday or Thursday, but the phone is going to die, so I got to go. Thanks for joining. We'll see you tomorrow at 8:45. Take care, everybody. Western Mass Dave. Have a great night.